Having had a few Freelanders over the last few years, I've discovered there's a bit of a weak spot in the headlamp mounting, and if you have a little knock on either front corner, it can very easily break the headlamp mounting. Have a look at this in close up in here, and you can see just where that's fractured. I imagine that'll be a familiar sight to more than one person, so let's see how I can go about repairing that. First thing I'm going to do is take out these two bolts here that hold the top of the headlight unit into place. Just put a bit of WD-40 on there, and they'll come out with a 10mm spanner. Obviously I'm being a bit careful with this one because this is a bit that's detached in the case of my headlamp. So with those two bolts removed, now gives me a bit of scope to move the headlight around, and I can get underneath here, only just. I think what I'm going to do, I've got a piece of scrap steel here, so I'm going to put that there underneath. I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to drill it to fit the existing hole and a new hole there. So the first thing I'm going to do is just see what sort of width I can get away with this being in there, and then I'm going to cut it. I've cut that piece of steel, and I'm hoping that it'll just slot into here now. Get my hands out of the way so you can see. That's not a bad fit into that hole. Obviously the front edge of here is profiled in a curved shape, so I'm going to try and cut the end of this piece of steel to match that. It's quite difficult to measure that, so there's going to be a degree of guesswork on my part to get to shape this to fit into there. I've shaped the end of this as best I can. I just ran quickly around it with a flap disc on an angle grinder, and then by hand with a file and a bit of emery paper. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is lucky. So that slips into there okay, I think. I've got a scribe here. I'm just going to scratch along the line where it's broken. Oh yeah, that's okay. That shows quite a large area that's inside the plastic, so if I aim to get a screw in the middle of there somewhere, then that will be in the middle of there somewhere. The next thing I'm going to do then is file off these two ridges on the top of here. They are part of the original moulding, strengthening ridges. For my purposes they're going to get in the way of trying to put a screw in there, so I'm just going to take those off with a file. Okay, I think that'll do. The next part of the operation is a bit tricky. I have to attach the metal plate to either the slam panel or the headlight, and then get the headlight in position so I can drill the other hole. Now, having spent a few minutes looking at it, I don't think I can get it in position underneath the slam panel accurately enough so that the headlight will be lined up. So the only way around this, I think, is having looked again at the scored line, and I think perhaps the first scored line was a little optimistic, so I've drawn one slightly further back. I'm then going to place the metal plate on top of the headlamp where the broken section is, and line up the ends of the scored line with the broken edge of the plastic, and then in the biggest area that's clear I'm going to make a cross. I'm then going to translate the end of that cross onto the front edge and onto the side. And then when I join those two lines up, by this most unscientific of methods, that'll give me the point where I need to drill a hole. Let's see what happens. Well, the burning question is, will the hole line up with the cross? It does. Amazing. That is amazing. Right, I'm going to go and drill a hole in the plate. I've drilled it out. I've actually drilled it to 6mm so it can accept an M6 nut and bolt. So I'm just going to do the same with this, and then we'll see how it all lines up. I have to say, that's not bad. Got a odd 6mm bolt. I'm just going to pop that in. might just get away with that. I've temporarily put this right hand bolt in the headlamp. In fact, thinking about it, I might just tighten that right down. And I'm holding the broken plastic piece against its brother over there. That means the headlamp is, give or take, a bit of spring in the rubber in the right place. So I'm going to try and mark my plate with this scribe. There it goes. Well, it's not exactly in the middle, but I would say that with an M6 hole drilled, it's suitably far enough away from the edge for it not to be an issue. It all lines up quite nicely like that, so I'm going to go with that. Here's the plate ready to fit, and I have a bolt with a little penny washer, try and spread the load out, and a nylock on the bottom. I imagine this is going to be quite a fiddle to fit, so I expect that the screen's just about to go wobbly. I realised that I made a bit of a schoolboy error in trying to fit this together, in forgetting to allow for the depth of the captive nut that's underneath the slam panel there. So I made a little spacer by drilling the centre out of this square nut, and I'm going to fit that underneath this plastic lug, which should hopefully bring our new bracket to the right level underneath the captive nut. Right then, after much jemmying and fiddling and swearing, I've got that front piece in. You might be able to just make out that I've ended up using a bigger spacer to go down onto the metal plate, because that square nut that I showed you wasn't quite big enough. Underneath the back there, you might be able to just make out a nylock, which I've wedged in place with this bit of cardboard. That's directly underneath the hole in the metal plate. So once I slide the headlight unit back and drop the screw into this side, hopefully I can get it aligned in such a way that I can get the back bolt arrangement and the broken off piece of plastic that goes with it in place. The cardboard's done the trick, so the nylock has started to take on the bottom of that thread. I'm going to try and wind that on, and hopefully that'll pull these two broken bits in line. Okay, then here's a close-up of that nylock at the back there, which, as you can see, is really tight against the metal plate, and then the metal plate's really tight against the captive nut that you can just make out above it, slam panel above that, and then the plastic cap washer and a longer bolt than the original one on the top. I've had to trim out a little bit of the plastic where the edge was broken along here. I had to chop that out with a hacksaw, because this front bit, as I tightened it up really tightly, it's got slightly deformed. So rather than try and have those two bits that didn't really want to go together struggle, I just cut that out, because that's not really, that back bit's not really playing any part other than being the plastic spacer, the same as its mate over there. So that's now absolutely rock solid. It's not going anywhere, and it's in the right place. One little trick I used was some of these plastic wedges that builders use for I don't know, door frames and things, I suppose. And I wedged them in the bottom there of the headlight and above the front bumper. Just tap those in to get everything in the right place before I nipped up all the nuts and bolts. Hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll be very pleased to see any comments from anybody who might like what I've done, or might tell me that I've made a complete hash of it, but all comments welcome. Cheers.